All right. And here we are on the April 27th, 2024 edition of Discussions from the Otherhood. And I'm here, of course, Shelby Flynn with Nikki, Roxanne, Cranston, and Sonia, and James, and now Otto coming to the stage. We got a full house. So, okay, this is all right. Now, this is the thing that's kind of interesting. For the very first time, we are having to have our show broadcast on YouTube. It was always doing it, the live show, but we never were moderating it in YouTube. So if you have any inclination to watch the show, if you saw on Facebook, you know that they no longer allow us to stream into a group. It has to be a page. We don't yet have a page for your various and sundry reasons, but we have always had the YouTube. So if you want to check in the show here with us on the YouTube channel, please do so. I guess I should do something like, hold on, share, copy, and putting the link, somewhere, but I guess I can't put it anywhere because you have to be in YouTube to know that I have it. Oh, well, those of you who are here in the chat room, I guess, in the comments section, I'm putting it here. So anybody should call and ask you, you say, oh, here it is, and you can send it to them. And there it is. I see it jump up over here on our page in YouTube. Yeah. Okay, so today we were talking about the fact that I went to a panel on someone else's podcast. It's a horror podcast. And one of the things they talked about was the fact that we saw this vampire film, Abigail, and one of the issues, spoilery, no spoilery kind of thing, is some of the vampire rules were not adhered to. So I was thinking about that and all these in our specific, genres and subgenres, that the thing that makes is the rules. So when is it okay to bend the rules and when is it okay to break the rules? So all of us here are consumers and or creators in the speculative fiction genres, subgenres. So I want to know, is it okay to break the rules? When is it okay to break the rules? Um, are you a purist, traditionalist, or are you New Jack? What is your position? And I would say to, I don't know, I know, I'm gonna, you know what I did? I did forgot to do the weather before I start jumping in. So Nikki, you're in the middle, top middle, fall in. How's your weather?
Cloudy. It's been cloudy all day today. We got a little bit of rain too.
Good, cloudy, but rain. I mean, at least it wasn't hot, right?
I don't know. I stayed in the house with the air on.
Hey, okay. How about you, Roxanne?
Um, Cloudy. It's in the
Cloudy.
upper 50s. Had a little bit of rain today, but not too bad. One of those days you can tolerate.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And how about you, James? How was your weather?
Right now it's 51 degrees. It's a light rain.
Sounds nice. Because light rain's okay because you're inside, right? Okay. Yes. I hope so.
Hello.
Can you? Yeah. Yeah. I
No,
think. Mm-hmm.
no, I had said it was 50. It's 51 degrees right now with a light rain, and
Yeah.
that it was freezing earlier this morning.
Really?
Hmm.
No. Okay. Cranston, how about you?
It's been bipolar weather all week. It's in the 70s up to the lower 80s during the day. At night, it gets back down to the mid 60s. So, and no rain.
No rain. No. And Sonia, how's your weather going?
Right now it feels like 52 degrees. It got all the way up to a balmy 60 and it's
Oh,
supposed to get even hotter. It's Monday's supposed to hit the 80s and then it goes back down again.
well, I mean, that's good. The
Yeah,
going back down part,
that's yeah, because last time it went down to 30.
We don't want that. We don't go that far. It's
I hope it's not going
yeah.
down that far, but we'll see.
And Otto.
It was great. It was 80, like high 80s,
Hmm.
sunny. It was beautiful. And by the way, Penelope, I was watching Trilogy of Terror
I was going to ask you.
on Svengoolie before I
Hmm.
came on.
Yeah.
And you know the first story with the student that
Yes.
she so-called seduces into
Yes.
doing whatever.
Uh huh. Yeah.
According to Svengoolie, that's her husband. That was Karen Black's husband.
What?
Yeah, and
Whoa.
by the time the movie premiered, they had divorced. But at the time of the filming, it was her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I did not know that. Well, this they have great information always. This really a lot of good Hollywood history stuff.
Hasn't he showed that movie a lot over the last 6 months?
What the trilogy of terror?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, this is the how many times have they showed it?
Well, I know they showed it sometime around Halloween. They showed it, and I think they showed it
Oh,
earlier. So he's been repeating himself lately.
Be quiet,
hmm.
Cranston. He can't show it enough.
That's right. Trilogy of Terror is a classic. Come on, man. All right. So we got started. We're discussing. Everybody got their weather on. Wonderful. And now we talk about whether or not it's okay to bend the rules and when it is, and bend them or to break them. And I was going to start with people who are kind of writers. Since you're at the top, right, Roxanne, and a writer and a reader, consumer of speculative fiction, what do you think? Do you think it's okay to break the rules or bend the rules?
Absolutely, absolutely. I live to break the rules, um, but you have to know how to break the rules. It's
Hmm.
it's it's not just a matter of taking a sledgehammer to the entire edifice. Um, and what rules you break depends upon the story you're telling. It may not be appropriate, to have a vampire walking during the day, depending on the story you're
Hmm.
telling.
Right.
If it's not, if the fact that the vampire can do all of these unvampire like things, it's got to, that's got to figure into the story, not just,
Right.
oh, I can do all these things. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. And I
Right.
think
Why call it a vampire?
right, and I think really that's the key. If you're going to break the rules, fine. You have to know how, and you have to break the rules so that it still makes sense. Because otherwise, you just end up with pottery shards and totally unenjoyable.
Yeah, I agree. So, someone like you, also James, you're a writer. What do you think about rule breaking, rule bending, rule breaking, whichever way you want to put it?
No, I go along with Roxanne. It depends on how you break the rules. Okay, you don't want it to be. See, I'm what you call a stickler for canon.
Hmm.
Okay, especially when it comes to TV shows. But in my case, with my characters, okay, my two main characters, one is a vampire, one is a werewolf. Okay, but I break the rules because what I did is I let everybody know in the first story that they're vampires. They're a vampire and werewolf because of the fact that they were basically infected by uh, a nameless horror, so to speak. You know,
Hmm.
Lovecraftian. So they're they're vampires, they're werewolves, but they're not your typical Earth type of vampire werewolf. Okay, they can go. The vampire Cavendish, he could go outside in sunlight, but he still has to wear Ray Bans, and he also gets a little weak, but he can go out in the daytime. Um, Another thing that I put in my stories is the fact that it's a certain type of herb on Earth that they make as a tea or oil that calms down on their bloodthirst and their bloodlust, cravings. So, and with the werewolf, she's a werewolf, but again, she only really gets infected if she goes out at night without her Ray Bans. Okay, so it's good to break the rules, but if you're doing it just to be doing it, and it gets to the point where it just sounds silly, then you're gonna have problems.
Hey, Cranston, how about you?
Well, have you ever had one of those a word or a phrase or something that you just keep hearing? The first time you hear it, said okay, and then you keep hearing it over and over again. And the one that I've been hearing over and over again lately has been people quoting Mark Twain saying, first you learn the rules, and then after you learn the rules, you can go about breaking them. So I think you can do things to make corrections to take in a different direction, but you have to be respectful of whatever the genre is, especially if that's not something that is in your wheelhouse and you're doing something new. Because it's like you saying, well, all your other people have been doing it wrong. I'm going to show you this is how you do it, which is not going to end well, especially if they know your address.
All right. I think about, the fact that, like, James says, I have people become a vampire, become werewolf through, like I said, your name was horror. And so is it a different infection from what they say is the original, vampire or werewolf canon? But I'm like James in that sense. I believe in canon. I mean, I know, when I, Dracula, Count Dracula actually does walk around during the day, but when he does, he has like the protective glasses and all that kind of stuff, the hat and everything, and he's like a regular person. He can't pick up anything like a car or a wagon and hit you with it or something. He's just like a regular person. He has no supernatural strength. He's just the guy walking around covered up. But I think people just have, these individuals that walk around and they said they don't explain anything. I mean, even in Blade, I thought it was very interesting because when they were outside during the day, they're like covered in, SPF 1000, sunscreen, and, very conscious of the fact that, Deacon Frost, that he was covered in sunscreen. And when he started to, sweat it, Blade brought his attention to it. He's like, he's a little scared there for a second. But I think it is. I think I bend maybe a little, but I don't like breaking the rules that much with someone else's monster, unless again you say, okay, the way we do this monster is you do it this way. It is related to this monster. But like James's nameless horror. Right? I know in Roxanne's stories, I mean, they're like an enclave of monsters, shifters, and everyone that live in Seattle, and describing how they are. I remember Valjean's stories, same way. She had her own mythology. We understand the thing, the werewolf, or the whatever, but it's within the confines of how she established her mythology
Well,
and made it
see,
consistent with that mythology.
well, not to cut you off, but see, another thing is you can get away with bending or breaking the rules, like you said, as long as you do a good deal of world building.
Yes,
Okay,
absolutely.
is as long as you do a good bit of world building, like
Hmm.
with your series of books with the Renfields,
Hmm.
it's a whole different world, that you have built, so you can kind of bend here and bend there and flex here and flex there. Um, with my characters, they live in a, I guess you could say, alternate reality of New York City. Okay,
Hmm.
it's an alternate reality. Um, I also rely on a lot of things a lot of people, places, and things that used to be in New York that are no longer here. Like in my New York, you can actually still go down in the subway and find a machine selling chiclet gum. You know, so that's that's an important thing.
Mhm.
World building,
Yeah.
and as long as you're able to explain it, you can get away with some of it. It's not like and people probably get mad for me to saying it. It's not like when, say, case in point, with Star Trek Enterprise. Okay, they kind of jumped the shark when they went into that whole mirror episode.
Hmm.
Because I kind of feel with Star Trek that certain shows when they when they start to go in the mirror, that seems like they're a little desperate.
Okay. Right. Speak your mind. And well, just like I said, your song. Yeah, I know you write
Yeah.
some as well. So, what do you think about that process then of bend versus break?
Okay, you may break the typical mode, but as long as you're true to your universe and your rules, you can do what you need to do.
Hmm.
I had a character that could shapeshift into anything as long as she bit a piece of its flesh, and made the mistake of biting into a vampire's flesh while she was in wolf form, and discovered she could no longer shift into any other form but wolf. So she was a
Hmm.
werewolf, but she wasn't the typical
Hmm.
werewolf. Um, so it's setting up your world so that you know what you can and can't do. Um, like I love how you set up your Renfields, that it's a very structured society and they have their own rules, their own economic system, and all of that. So you're still playing by your rules,
Hmm.
and so but it's a twist on the vampire persona.
But
So
if you don't have the rules, though, your normal people that exist in your stories, they
Hmm.
don't have a chance, right? Because you're thinking, if you're a normal person, you're thinking, I'm going to defeat this vampire with a cross and holy water and a stake through the heart. And if none of that works, it's like, you know what? All bets are off.
Hmm.
yeah,
This
Yeah.
this
well,
movie
Yeah.
become phantasm. It
Yeah,
become
but I think,
phantasm or
yeah, but
something.
yeah, because Phantasm with the tall man, and they never tell us how to defeat the tall man. So it's like that's like the scariest thing because you got a thing walking around that no one knows how to defeat. But that's why I think we
yeah,
should tell people that okay, like for me, the vampire rules, which I was saying earlier in this other panel, that that's why I did like Lost Boys, because the guy comes into the house, is dating the mom. If you haven't seen Lost Boys yet, and you think you might want to see it after what 50 years, you might want to go ahead and may not listen right now because these are spoilery things. We have at the end of the film the boyfriend who's been coming to the house all this time. All of a sudden, we find out, oh, he's like the head vampire. How can that be? He's been in the house all this time. They did all the vampire things on him, the holy water, the garlic, all of it. And he says, well, once you invite a vampire to your home, none of those things work. So I'm sorry, who in the world made a that? That is not a thing. That just and so you're watching the show. You know the vampire rules, and you're trying to figure this stuff out, but you're never going to figure out the answer to the mystery. Who is this head vampire? Because they changed the rules. Now all the guys who try to catch the vampire, they know all the vampire rules,
hmm
and they're doing everything they're supposed to do. And now, oh yeah, when this means that you invite me to your home, none of this stuff works. Very irritating. Very irritating. You know, then and so why bother? Or then I have issues with things where people call a thing a vampire, but it doesn't adhere to any vampire rules except that it has fangs. I mean, why not just call it the double mosquito people? I don't get it. Because it sounds sexier to call it a vampire when they just really are. Just
Well, see, you just said the magic word right there. When it comes to vampires, a lot of people think about sex.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
that's the main thing that even with werewolves. Okay,
hmm There's a
um,
sexy component to it, you know.
yeah, I give you guys a spoiler alert. If you ever run into my characters,
Mhm.
you have to get them to a Con Edison substation because only a really high amount of electricity will get rid of them.
Mm.
Okay, that's why if Madison and Sue are walking down 14th Street, they end up near Avenue A, they're gonna cross the street because
Mm.
the Con Ed substation kind of freaks them out. In fact, when they get into arguments, one will say to the other, usually, listen, if you don't shut up, I'm gonna take you to the Con Ed substation and hook you up and light you up. You know. So
Wow.
yeah, but yeah, with vampires, well, especially vampires, sex is what what is the main thing. Sometimes people overdo it, like with what is it? What was the series Twilight?
True Blood. No,
No, no.
True Blood got a lot of vampires too.
Was it the series or movie Twilight?
Yeah,
Twilight. I mean, yeah, that's
the
definitely a thing with the shiny,
the
sparkly
sparkle ones.
vampires.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was a thing.
but see,
Yes.
but she knew her audience, that the little girl she was aiming towards, loved glitter, and they would, oh yeah, they're just glittered, and I'm like, No." Those
I
of
mean,
us
she should have.
older reading it went, no.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just call it something else. You know, if it's not a vampire, just call it something else. You know, make up a name, the Bibbity Bits or something. I don't know. Just say this will attract people. Just call it this.
Well,
Just
it goes with what Sonia said, that if you create your own reality, as long as it's consistent, even if it veers from the rules, you can kind of let it go by. Something people say, well, this is different. Like I remembered in the first pages of Entry with the Vampire, the
mhm,
vampire is telling the um, reporter all of the stuff that you've heard about and everything. None of this stuff, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work.
mhm,
But the world that she created from that, the rules did make sense. And you could say, okay, well,
mhm,
I can see where this doesn't necessarily uh, negate everything that went before it. But it's like a variation. You can get along, but
mhm,
bending the rules or breaking the rules like that. But when you come up with this other stuff, like I think was it Edward, whichever one was the vampire, was the
mhm.
1,000-year-old teenager or something like that, and that kind of thing. That's when you begin to say, okay, it's time for me to put this down and pick up
Yeah.
something
Okay.
Yeah,
There was
yeah,
Yeah.
a
exactly,
game.
exactly.
There was a gaming system, um, Vampire the Masquerade, and they were saying that all the stuff they were responsible for putting out all the misinformation. So garlic didn't work.
Mhm.
Crosses would work only if you had true faith that it would work. So they twisted
Yeah, who came up with
the
that?
status. They twisted the status so that, and it had to be a specific type of tree to kill the vampires. Um, but they set
Yeah,
it up.
but you know what?
They set it up from the very beginning, and then they, for some reason, they brought in a author who had written her own vampire hunter thing and tried to mesh the worlds, and we were all like, but that doesn't work because her rules are completely different from your rules.
Well,
Hmm.
the
So
thing about
it
setting it up
doesn't.
in this is just bad world building
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
incidental, like like, oh, look at this, just for
Yeah. I
that.
Well,
mean,
for instance, in Blade, they did that at the very beginning. Abraham Whistler was speaking to Blade and with Dr. Karen and explaining to her that some of these things, the holy water doesn't work, silver, works, the
You said
light,
that about
sunlight
crosses.
works.
Is
No,
it
no
what? I
crosses.
mean, the thing is, crosses work, but you have to have faith.
Mm,
That is, what?
that is
You
what is it?
might.
You
Well,
had to
but you
have,
know
yeah.
what? But the reality is this. They said the cross works, but you have to have faith.
Mhm.
But I think if you're like beset by, a bunch of growling vampires, and you pick up a thing, a piece of wood or silver or whatever in that shape, that's showing a heck of a lot of faith. you
Yeah,
know?
you pick up the thing.
And
You
That's
say,
so
"Oh,
once you do it,
that
I think that in and of
you say, oh,
itself,
oh
that's
yeah.
how
Jesus,
that's how
oh
we
Jesus,"
work.
and that's it.
Yeah, that's how we
Mhm.
worked around. Didn't they never specified
Mhm.
which faith? So we
Yeah,
came up with a character that had faith in herself and that she could handle herself. And that's that faith. Yeah, that's true faith. Can't argue.
Well, I
Yeah.
think when you talk about what will hurt, kill, or what will not hurt or kill a
yeah,
vampire, I also wonder, or no, actually, I also think um, when you talk about the rules, I think you need to talk. You need to think about the culture that you're in. Yeah, I can
mm,
see. I can see a situation where the cross doesn't work because I don't believe in Christ. That's the whole
that's right.
point.
Yeah, I'm Jewish or
You know,
something.
if
Why,
if
why
I'm
would that work for
Jewish, if
me?
I'm Buddhist,
That's
if I
right.
believe in the
Yeah,
616
but the thing
goddess,
is about to kill me. I pick up a Star of David. I'm not Jewish. I just want to live. I'm not trying to, be a, revolutionize,
yeah, but that's what I'm thinking.
religion. I just whatever it is. I don't care.
Well, how about listen to this. I think it's Chinese because when I was researching the underground, I did a little of this,
Mhm.
and I think it's Chinese, but willow branches will
Yeah,
propel a vampire.
Yeah.
yeah. But it's here it is hawthorn
Mhm.
Yeah.
repels vampires. So there's a specific type of wood is hawthorn. When you um stake a vampire, the rules are not, like you see, oh, the stake is not a vampire. You're supposed to take the stake, you put it in them, then you cut the stake off horizontally so that there's no part of it sticking up. So now you can just go in and take it and pull it out. So the stuff, the head, the mouth with garlic, and then cut the head off. That's how you're supposed to dispatch with a vampire.
But
It's
well, again,
a lot of work. People don't like that much work.
yeah,
That's why they get into tobacco.
with my vampires, garlic. Hell, if they're in a Italian restaurant, they'll be Madison will be the first to ask for some garlic. Okay, because it just doesn't do nothing. As far as the cross goes, I have one story where the cross really it depends on on the mood of the cross because they have it in a box,
Mhm.
and sometimes they could just pull the cross out because see, in my world, Cavendish and Sue, Madison and Sue, they're actually hired by the city of New York as regulators. Okay. And a regulator, the best way I could explain it is if you go to the movie Tom Horn, okay, he was a range detective. And he was a range detective, but he was also an ex cattle rustler.
Mm.
So the best way to catch cattle rustlers is with an ex cattle rustler.
But then we have
Okay.
the same kind of mindset because, of course, in Renfields, the Renfield Internationals Investigation and
Hmm.
Enforcement works sometimes for the city of New York,
There you go.
and this the Paradoxan Authority hires them to maintain the peace between those who are paradoxans and those who are not.
Yeah. Or as as I write in my books, when the New York City has an office of what they call special concerns, and it was started back in 1914. And whenever there's a situation in New York where there has a little bit of too much weird mustard, they call on Madison and Sue. Okay, and they're kind of regulators because sometimes they have to deal with Claudius and the New Amsterdam Society, which is a kind of an old school vampire family from when New York was New Amsterdam. So again, what you do is you build the world, okay, and you can bend the rules, a little bit. Like with Sue, she's constantly telling Madison to keep a silver ashtray in his drawer and not have it on his desk. And it's not that it's gonna kill her; it's just that silver affects her in that she gets really annoyed.
Mm.
She gets into like a mood change. And with Madison, you can stick all the pegs in his heart that you want. It's not gonna affect you. It's not gonna affect him. Again,
Well, can I
Con
can I
Edison.
can I put can I put him on a instead of going to a Con Edison substation? Can I push him on the third rail?
No, no, it'll weaken him a little bit, but he'll still have enough strength to get off the third
Mhm.
rail. Now he'll probably have to climb back up on the platform and kind of go through a little bit of regeneration. But once he goes through that regeneration, you Otto had better be out the subway station.
Well, I got two options. If I put him on the third rail, right,
Right, right,
Mhm.
and
right.
he has to climb on the platform like a moron
Mhm.
and try to regenerate, then
Yeah.
I can either kill him or be on the train on the F train going home.
But that's what I
Well,
took. That's
okay, this is my question now. Does he? What is his reaction to sunlight? Madison's reaction to sunlight.
his reaction to sunlight is he gets a little weak.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he still has to wear the Ray Bans. He gets a little weak and whatnot, but he's able to get through the day. He's able to.
So, right. So if you take and you push him on the third rail and you run up to street level during the day, then if you can outrun him, you'll probably be able to outrun him.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You
Oh,
can probably.
what about
You,
this? What if I push him on the third rail?
oh
Hold
Lord.
on, hold on, hold on. Push him on the
Okay.
third rail during the day, and then drag his butt upstairs, up out of the subway, and then kill him then.
But what are you
But
gonna?
how can
What are
you
you
kill
gonna?
it? How are you going
How
to do
can
it?
you kill it? Because I guarantee you,
He's incapacitated.
and he's
But you have
not.
to drag him to Con Edison. That's when you have to drag him to the
Yeah,
Con Edison
No, no, no.
substation.
I don't know. No, I don't have to go to. I don't
I
have to
mean, well,
go to
what are the
Con
other
Edison.
rules in your universe? What are the other rules?
He's on the third rail. He just
Yeah,
got
okay,
off the
no,
third
he
rail.
gets off the third rail. He's climbed on the platform, and you're making your way. You get upstairs, and he's trying to follow you. So he's okay. I got a trick for
I
you.
let him follow me. I
Okay,
pulled him
great.
upstairs.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay. No, no, no. Okay, he's following you upstairs. Now you say, "Ha! I got you where I want you." And
and I kill
then
him.
James, well, no.
see,
How
see,
can you kill him now, James? How can you
see.
do it?
It all comes down to how fast does he regenerate. Okay,
Okay, so
because
yeah.
once he gets off of that third rail and he climbs up on the platform, he's kind of like Terminator, where he's just regenerating himself as he's walking.
Okay, decapitation not work.
It doesn't work.
So what works? Just Con Ed. That's it.
That's it.
Lightning. Strap on lightning.
Well, that's one thing that they tend to stay inside when it's lightning.
I push his ass back on the third rail again. How about that?
Yeah, nothing else to do
Well,
all
you
day,
can
huh?
well you well
Pushing
well
him
well
back up and down the third rail.
yeah
Okay,
well
Yeah.
Mr. Man, you can try.
all
Okay,
day,
you
every
can
day.
try.
Standing there, just
Yeah.
that's your
And
job.
like
Sitting
people in
pushing
New
him.
York, they'll just pass the right day and say, "Yo, man, you see that guy tied to the third rail? What's going on?" You
What's that guy
stay
doing?
there. You stay there.
What is that?
But
What's that? Jeeper? What's it? Jeepers Creepers? Is that the name of the film? Where the monster comes to the guy, uh, waits for it to regenerate every 7 years or so, and he's just sitting there in a chair in front of the barn where the thing is hanging, sitting there to just sit there for the entire period that the thing is supposed to be alive and just blowing it away every time it tries to regenerate. Just every day.
and
It only
and
stays
and,
alive for some amount of days, and it's every day.
and see, as a writer, that's my job to to see writing this, especially with short story, is like doing the perfect crime.
Mm-hmm.
When you write a short story, you can't leave any loose ends. You can't have you cannot have the reader like Otto is a perfect example. If he reads something, he's gonna be like, "Well, what about this? And what
Yes.
about that?" You can't have that. You have to have everything tied, wrapped up neatly with a bow. You can't leave
Mhm.
any loose ends. Okay, it's like trying write. Sometimes I tell people, writing a short story is like trying to commit the perfect murder.
Mhm.
Okay, that's why sometimes when I write a short story, I tend to do the end first,
Mhm.
to so that way I don't paint myself into a corner because I already know what the ending is, so I have to work towards it.
Yeah, but I would say we talk about vampires. They're pretty well known for the rules and stuff that they follow. But I think also, there's, other things where there are rules that people expect to be followed, and when you don't follow it, it takes me out of a story. Especially when there is a someone at the very beginning of a film says, "Oh, we have to do certain thing in this process. We got to do A, B, C, and D," and then they get to the end of the film, but well, Roy did the process. We only did A, B, and D. He didn't even do C. For instance, and I may say we have spoken about it before, like Harry Potter. You say this is the rule, and this is the thing that happens when you break the rule. But when Harry Potter breaks the rule, he gets a whole bunch of awards and privileges for breaking the rule that everyone else was told this is what happens to you when you break the rule. So that really irked me. I do not like that kind of thing.
I agree 100%. That's then why mention the rule in the first place?
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
you
not,
can't.
I'm
You
not a Harry Potter fan, but I know somebody who really is a big fan, and so you have to go to the movies and everything. And the way they always explain it isn't so much that they broke the rule, but it was creative thinking. They thought outside the box, and that's how they were able to succeed.
That is not creative thinking. It is breaking the rules. They said,
Hmm.
if you do this, what do you call it? Syllogistic thinking,
Hmm.
then this is what happens. So he did this. Then what was supposed to happen? Oh, the thing that didn't happen. Okay, I got you now. So if
Hmm.
everyone else said, I'm going to be creative thinking too. I creatively think that I can just go in your desk and get the answers to my test and write it down and have all correct answers. That was creative. I just went and got that.
well,
No.
the one genre where you can kind of do what you feel and break the rules and pretty much is maybe magical realism. Okay, maybe magical realism. You could kind of break the rules, like you writing a story and in the story, your two characters are sitting at a table in their house drinking tea, and then the next, they float out the window and they're up in the sky having tea on a cloud, and then they come back. With magical realism, you could kind of get away with that, but with other genres, in fact, I think Sonya will agree with me. The thing that killed me with Mission Impossible was the first movie. With
Mm.
Mr.
The
Phelps.
Yep.
I was like, when I saw that, excuse my French.
I have not been back to another one after that.
There you
I
go. I'm the
Because
same
the
way.
rules were set. This is the
Yeah.
one character who would never do that,
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah,
and
I
they
guess
had
they
him do it.
well, I guess because they think that it's some big reveal, it's a shock. But, don't we think then that it undermines the entire system? You
It
know?
Totally.
it
To
was
me,
good for people who had never seen the original
yeah.
show,
Yeah, yeah.
but or was willing to forgive and forget to peak interest on the second one. But yep, that one killed it for me.
Yeah.
I walked out of the theater and I went, nope, 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 and it explained a lot because I kept seeing all the original actors not willing to, they had
Hmm.
approached all the original actors and they must have read the script, got to
So,
that
oh
one point and
no,
went,
yes,
oh
oh
no, nope,
no, oh
mm-mm.
no. I was shocked too that they would make him so petty, and devious. I thought that was very uncool, especially, we had watched for, decades, ago, we were children, would watch them in reruns, and to have this character
Yep, we
treated
had,
that way.
yeah,
I thought it was
And,
we had
see,
We
See
had
the
rewatched the original series just to lead up to that movie, so we knew exactly how he would act.
and see the thing is, I get it. It's not your mother and father's Mission Impossible.
Hmm.
It's like with a lot of franchises out here. I get it. Some fanboys don't get it with some franchises, but I get it. It's
Hmm.
from I'm from a different time and place. But what they did with that, I was like, when I saw it, I was like, what the,
Yeah, I said, what in the world?
you know?
Why would they do that? I mean, I just thought, how nasty is that? I mean, I thought it was mean spirited, in all
Yeah,
honesty. I thought it was
especially
very mean
when,
spirited.
especially if you rewatch the '90s show and saw how much reverence they paid to the original crew.
Yeah,
Some of them
yeah,
showed up on it, and I was like, well,
yeah.
of course, some of them will show up on this. And then I read all the reports, and I'm like, what's wrong? Why? What's different? And it's not
Hmm.
that they're old, because some of them still held up and looked well, or it could come
Hmm.
in as guest appearance. They're
Right,
giving their
right.
thought, but they didn't have to be in the thick of the action, but they needed to show some kind of respect, and they
Yeah, that
Well,
was soft.
it was kind of, I think and the thing that kind of disappointed me about it was that that screenplay at least was initially written by Robert Town, who wrote Chinatown. So you would think we could do something a little better than that if you're going to do
Well, I
that.
guess he wanted to give like a Chinatown kind of a ending, this surprise, ending type thing. Maybe I don't know. What do you think?
Well, it's like a waste of time. It's the same thing with the Superman, rules and Superman and the sun and all this stuff,
Hmm.
and green kryptonite and
Hmm.
first the only thing they talked about is Superman was kryptonite, and then
Right.
all of a sudden it became red kryptonite, and yellow kryptonite. What the hell?
Yeah.
You're just making stuff. This is
Yeah. Yellow
BS. You're making
suns
stuff
as
as you go
opposed to your
along.
red suns. All that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Now you're talking about all this other stuff. You're just adding stuff because you're lazy. You're lazy writing. Now, red kryptonite makes his hair grow and his fingernails grow, or I
yeah,
have no
whatever.
idea. Whatever it does, is that just making stuff up, and you set these rules. We bought into the rules, and then you change them.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
That's what I don't like too. When you give me a set of rules, you say, "Well, it doesn't serve me anymore. Let me change these rules." Right.
well, you be creative, as to what I was saying, be creative and give me a reason why you're changing the
Hmm.
rules, not just, oh, we just changed them.
Or like, oh, we ran out of stories with
Hmm.
our our old rules, so now we got to make some new rules so we can have some more different stories because you've just kind of exhausted everything under our old rules.
Yeah, I only, with Superman in case, I kind of bought the red sun versus yellow sun. Okay, fine, I can go with that. But then they kept adding more and adding more and adding
More and
more.
more.
And I'm like, wait, wait, wait,
Hmm.
you didn't think some of this through.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
somebody on my job said you're doing too much.
yeah, yeah,
You do too
yeah,
much, and the thing as a consumer is like you don't care about me anymore. You don't. You think I would accept any piece of
yeah. Just
crap that
any
you
old thing
feed
you just
me?
throw at me,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I have to be happy with it.
See,
right.
and that right there, what you just said, okay, because you're a patron of all this stuff, right?
Hmm.
That's what it is. You're kind of insulting the consumer. You are insulting the consumer. You basically say, "Here, buy this,
Yeah, you
Yeah,
buy
don't care
into this."
about you don't care
Yeah,
about me
they don't
anymore.
care.
You
Yeah,
put anything in there and say you'll eat it. You'll eat
yeah.
anything
That's
as
right.
long as
Well,
it
Eat
has a
this.
Superman S on it. Or
Yep.
if I say the word vampires, I come a running because it's a movie about vampire. You don't
Well,
adhere
yeah.
to the rules, and you got Jack Nicholson at the beginning of your movie, and he's a vampire, and you want him to be there at the end. So you like throw all these rules out of the window. He can see himself in the mirror. He's
Hmm.
drinking holy water.
Hmm.
He having sex in a church. All these
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Yep.
well,
Yep.
you have two types of consumers. You have and Superman was probably one of the most egregious ones because they had so many different colors of kryptonite, and I think red kryptonite was the one that you didn't know what it was going to do to him, but whenever they needed him to do something zany, there was red kryptonite. But you had gold kryptonite, I think, would take away his powers permanently, and white kryptonite only affected plants for some reason, and then you had blue kryptonite, and I forget what that did. But
But
there was,
why would you? Okay, just out of curiosity, sorry to interrupt.
Mhm.
But why would you want gold kryptonite so it takes away his powers permanently? Does that make any sense at all to have anything like that out in the world?
Well, they did use it in Smallville, and it actually made sense for that instance.
But
yeah.
I'm just saying, but
Um,
why would you want him to have his powers taken away permanently?
Well,
I mean, I would think
but if you had
as
another Kryptonian you wanted to permanently destabilize, you would throw it on him and hope you were far enough
okay,
away it didn't get you. And the
okay,
second was it just
all right,
added another level of danger to the situation.
okay,
But a lot of
Yeah,
them, they had
you
18
don't care about me. You don't
issues.
care about the consumer because it's like you got a metal that comes out of the earth, and it's called gold. And then you say, okay, we're not going to call this other thing. It's like gold, but now it's white gold, but now it's red gold, and now it's
yeah.
green gold, but it's all gold. Man, get out of here.
But that's
But
also where the retcon comes in. So you can change it like it never happened and make it go back
right,
into something.
right. And so, but I think people run out of things to write about because they figure all the good stories are gone, and well, because he only has certain sensitivities. We've done that and done that and done that, 100 times. Now we want something else that gives a different type of sensitivity, so that we can have a more interesting story.
Mhm.
That's my position.
Who said that we wanted Superman to be zany? What the hell is that?
I
Zany?
don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's meant to
Go
make people
home,
scared.
Superman. You're drunk.
Yeah, but it's like in Batman the animated series when the Scarecrow gets the fear toxin, which is actually anti-fear toxin in him, and what it does is makes him unafraid, which is a very scary thing for someone who is like Bruce Wayne, Batman. When he stops becoming afraid, and the things that concern him most are justice and trying to do, right, and like he takes a guy and hangs him off the side of a building, and the guy says, "Okay, I'll tell, I tell," and the guy says, "The guy tells the whatever," he drops him anyway, so that's his most fearful thing with regard to Batman is him not having any scruples. He becomes extremely dangerous because he takes a lot of risks and does not care what happens to himself. So that's, I thought that was an interesting thing to introduce something that, doesn't make him, some horrible monster, but he does become kind of a horrible monster
Yeah.
because he has no boundaries. There's nothing he won't do to get what he wants. And so I thought that was really good. But still playing, still coloring within the lines because Scarecrow is a character and that's what he does. Create these toxins that make people do things. And what is the type of thing he would do? That's the type of thing that, Bruce Wayne with no boundaries would do. Batman Bruce Wayne with no boundaries.
Yeah, that's where you can bend the rules, but you don't necessarily break them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, remember that line for Superman 2? Oh boy, Superman, how did you guys do that? We played this game on Krypton when we were kids.
Except that you were never on Krypton as a kid. Who wrote this crap? He was an infant when he came to this world. He was never a kid. We're like, who the heck wrote that garbage?
Well, it's like, how did he have a pet dog? If he left when he was a kid, I mean, does he remember?
Yeah, he's a kid.
Yeah, he don't have no wonder dog.
He got a smaller Superman suit that fits like a baby or a toddler. It's like y'all stop, man.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all stop taking drugs now.
Yeah, no sense.
It was the family dog. It was the family dog, and they supposed to send the dog to take care of the baby, and it separated just like his cousin. And that's it. That's it.
What happened to the dog?
I don't know.
No, Crypto the Wonder Dog. I don't know what happened to him. He did. I don't know.
But that's how you explain it. Yeah.
In the last story they did before, Kurt Swan, who was the principal artist up until the mid '80s, left with a story written by Alan Moore called "Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow," and it was when all of Superman's enemies were coming after him and anything. And at one point, Crypto was defending him and got killed defending him. So that's what happened to Crypto.
Okay. Thanks for letting us know.
Hmm.
You're right. I'll put that somewhere where people need to know that.
And then they did a soft reboot in the next issue where all that stuff never happened. So,
And why did it not happen?
cause they can
He was
do
streaming.
that. Retcon.
Okay. All right. Great. I
With
was just why.
with Spider-Man, he started out for years. All Marvel superheroes in the early '60s got their powers from radioactivity.
Mhm.
And then, then after a while, they found out that radioactivity will kill you. So I think when the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man came out, it wasn't a radioactive spider. It was spider they were doing something else with. Then
A
when the
genetically engineered spider.
genetically engineered spider, then it became a transgenetic spider in
Mhm.
the Garfield movies. And then when they got to the last iteration and stuff, he just said, "I got bit by a spider." Didn't say what kind, and said, "Let's forget about it and go on." So
Yeah.
And in Miles Morales, it was a spider from another dimension that wasn't supposed to be there in the first place.
It could be a radio. Why
And
can't it be a
but I remember
radioactive
in
spider?
the
Why couldn't
X-Men,
just
when they interacted with Spider-Man, Spider-Man was a mutant.
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, why couldn't it be a radioactive spider that triggers some latent mutant,
Yeah.
tendencies?
Yeah.
Because
Maybe
the
it did.
thing
And
is that
that's what they did in the X-Men. That's
the
what it
Tobey
was in the
Maguire
X-Men.
Spider-Man, he had webbing coming out of his hand, like secreted from his body. That was the worst piece of crap.
Because
well,
Spider-Man invented his weapon.
even worse than that. I don't know. I think it was like when Marvel would start doing what DC would call the what if stories, and there was one where Spider-Man, and this was an actual plot, and you have to wonder, well, who's in the editorial meetings for these things? But Spider-Man was, of course, regretting all the things that he had done. And one of the things he'd done, that he had killed Mary Jane because his blood was still radioactive. And they had an active social life.
Mm-hmm.
And so the constant exposure to those small doses of radiation gave her cervical cancer. So he killed her.
Some people sit around thinking of some really morbid stuff. I swear it.
Well, that's why you have to say, okay, now what went on in the meeting that nobody said? Okay, let's go through this again.
Yeah.
So
Just think this through, okay?
No
but
women in the meeting. There's no
but
women
that's
in the meeting.
Yeah. No women
but
in the
that,
meeting. Right.
Yeah.
but that's the other thing about writing in science fiction. The bad thing is between breaking the rules and bending the rules is really inconsistent or crappy science. So things that
Mhm.
just don't make sense, and they just we're going to run over this and keep going with it and say, but you can't do that, or that's not possible,
Yeah.
or
So it's like every place on Mary Jane's body that came in contact with Peter Parker radioactive semen, that's where she got. That's where she got some sort of
that's
disease.
what killed her. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That makes no sense.
Well, when it comes to science, I suggest to anybody out there that's writing, um, that you have to make it sound believable, and maybe even combine real science, or in my case, a real occult stuff
Mm-hmm.
with stuff you make up. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a story. One story I wrote where this army major, his hobby was capturing ghosts in ghost mirrors.
Hmm.
Okay. Now what I did was I looked up um occult uh references or research about uh ghost mirrors,
Mm-hmm.
but I also added something from a real occultist, a black occultist named P.B. Randolph, which um he had invented back in the 19th century something about magic magic mirrors.
Mm.
Okay, so I combined the two, where if a person is reading the story, they will recognize the name,
Mm.
P.B. Randolph, who, by the way, was friends with Abraham Lincoln,
Mm.
according to his backstory.
Well, I tell you what though, if I encounter anybody who looks like that vampire character in your story, I'm tying his ass to the third rail.
There we go.
Okay, well, I'm just gonna give you some pointers. Just
Tips and
make
tricks.
sure,
Some
yeah,
tips and tricks. So
yeah,
where can we
don't.
hide? Where do we get to hide to get away from said vampire?
Well, actually, to tell you the truth, he's not even thinking about you guys. Even thinking about humans most of the time. His job is to deal with to regulate vampires, werewolves, and other things that go bump in the night.
Yeah, right.
You know, so as
So how is he a vampire? He don't drink human blood. He doesn't. He doesn't desire human blood.
now he has the desire for human blood, but what he, what him and the other ones in my story do, I also had a problem pronouncing this. Is hyssop tea?
Hmm?
Okay, hyssop tea. H,
Hyssop. Okay, hyssop.
yeah,
Okay, tea.
yeah.
Okay.
Either hyssop tea, either put it in a tea, or make it into an oil. Um, I kind of cross the line in that also they tend to inject it into
Mm.
themselves. Okay, which in one story they kind of give the hint that they're becoming addicted to it.
Mm.
But to control their cravings, yeah, hyssop oil, hyssop tea. Um, you wouldn't want to be sitting in a restaurant. In fact, they pretty much can't go to a regular restaurant, especially if it's like a steakhouse or something, because these days in New York City, if you order a hamburger or a steak, you can't
Mm.
have it medium rare
Mm.
because the restaurants in New York City don't want to get the liability of,
Really? Huh?
yeah, 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 it happened to me on Columbus Avenue. I was in a restaurant with my sister and I asked, I like my hamburgers medium rare,
Hmm.
and the waitress, she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we can't cook it like that." I guess it's a thing where they don't want to be sued
Yeah, I
because,
guess not.
yeah. So
Wow.
yeah, his meal consists of um medium rare hamburgers or a very rare steak.
Mm.
With Susan, if you go to breakfast with her, she just wants bacon.
Mm.
Okay, she just wants bacon, maybe a glass of orange juice. Um, then I actually have other characters like witch detectives, private
Mm.
investigators, witch detectives, and so I bend the rules a little bit with them. But again, as long as you try to stay in it and just don't willy nilly come up with stuff like, oh, this vampire, I don't know, this vampire can go, suntanning on the beach without, yeah. I mean, if my character Madison goes to the beach, Sue is having fun. He's kind of wrapped up in you know, he's kind of wrapped up with sunglasses on, maybe
Yeah.
reading a book,
And she's frolicking.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know. And with her, it's also a thing where if you look at her left hand, you can see little telltale signs of fur on her hand,
Mm.
which she just explains that somebody that's just a birthmark.
Yeah, ain't nobody going out with her. 'Cause that's nasty.
She already has a companion, so there we go. She's not worried. They get it. They get it. You know.
Okay, but I just thought of something to stay, the way to stay safe from him is number one, you get a job with Con Edison and
Yeah.
all
There you go.
you can handle.
See
All the
now,
overtime, all the overtime.
now I'm glad you said that because I figured you would come up with something like that, Cranston, because their arch nemesis is named Cranston Vauxhall.
There we go. There
Okay,
we
yeah,
go.
Cranston Vauxhall. He's the one that got them into this whole mess back in 1914.
All right.
But actually, he only appears. He's not even appearing in. He only appears in the first short story. He's not gonna. They're not gonna hear from him again until maybe if everything goes all right. The second collection of short stories. See, because I don't like. Well, I don't like to have like a arch nemesis every story.
Yeah.
They had it out. That's why I kind of, whether you like the show or not, that's why I like Deadwood because everybody was expecting um Wild Bill Hickok to be in every episode.
Hmm.
No, he got killed in I think the second or third episode.
Well, interesting.
And that was, I think that's what made people tune in to watch because it was such a shock because people that are not familiar with the history of Deadwood, the town. Yeah, he was only in that town for not even a year before he got shot in the back of the
Wow,
head. Yeah,
that's terrible.
yeah. So they focused the rest of that series on Bullock, which I like because that was an actual person.
Hmm. Interesting. Well, on that note, we're about at time. So I guess I want to reiterate to anyone: does anyone have a particular rule that they thought was broken, should not have been broken, or should have been bent when it wasn't bent?
Well, a general rule that just really annoys the heck out of me, other than general bad science or things that are not going to work out
Mhm.
at all, is when they make up stuff that cannot possibly exist. And that's when they make up an element that is nowhere on the periodic table that couldn't exist because everything above 92 only
Mhm.
exists from like a fraction of a second. So you can't have a
Mhm.
bar of this stuff coming up. And
Mhm.
so little things like that bother me. And then when they break their own consistency or things that they don't know about, and that's why I thought the Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan was a good movie, but I absolutely hated that script.
Yeah.
The first and the first where there was one thing where Khan is saying, okay, and this is spoiler for a 40-year-old movie and stuff, so when
Mhm.
he's going to put the worms in their head and said it wraps itself around your cerebral cortex. That's not how you get to the cerebral cortex through the ear. Uh, Anything that's going to tunnel into your head is going to do so much damage. You're not going to
Yeah.
do anything after that. When they first got to the planet, I'm thinking, what kind of GPS do those ships have if they can't tell this isn't the same planet?
And also
So
in that movie, why is Khan mad at Kirk? I mean, he basically asked to be left on that planet, and so it's like
Right.
now you're
Well,
angry
you
at him.
tricked
Like,
me.
dude,
well,
You
he was
tricked me
seriously,
into.
you said that Dante shit. You said better to rule in hell than serve in heaven.
Yeah.
So there
well,
you go.
the
What is
two
it, Chris?
reasons he was upset was it's kind of like a bad date says, like you dropped me off at home, you didn't call. He never checked on
Yeah.
him in 2
Yeah.
years, and he blamed him for the death of his wife. So he said, if you hadn't dropped me here, if you just checked in on us, gave us some bug spray or something, my wife would still be alive. But
Oh,
now,
now he says that.
Yeah,
now,
yo, man, I'm not your jump
yeah,
off. I ain't doing all that.
yeah.
You
So
ask to be dropped off like an Uber driver. You go off the
Yeah.
vehicle.
Very good. Very good.
I
Anyone
would
else? Yeah.
I would say I don't know whether it was in Bram Stoker's book or not, and I would say it really didn't break the rules. But one scene that I love about Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula is when Gary Oldman is, it's daytime,
Mm-hmm.
and he sees Winona Ryder, and I forget
Mm-hmm.
what happened transpired, but she starts crying,
Mm-hmm.
and he touches her eye with, the tears are coming down. He turns them into diamonds.
It's like, okay, so who said we could do that?
Yeah, I don't remember that
Who
in the
said
book.
that was a thing?
I didn't see that. I
You
didn't
know.
remember reading that.
Now, I was like, at first, I was like, come on, but then I was like, wow, that's really cool. That's really cool. Listen, I wish I could do that with women.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, I'd probably be more successful.
I wish I could do that to my.
It's
Wish I could do that to
Did
myself.
to
I'll be a
myself.
crying bastard.
You
I'm
know,
crying. I'm
I
crying.
would,
My
I
eyes.
would, if
Tears
it's a
of
woman,
joy.
if it's a woman I want to date and whatnot, I'd hand her a piece of paper and snatch it back so she could get a paper cut, and she
Hmm.
started boo-hooing. Although most women I know, they wouldn't boo-hoo, they
Yeah,
start
fine.
cursing up a storm and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. There's
But
that.
yeah, I thought that was really cool.
Okay. Well, I like to think, I'm sure it's all right. We hit it. It was one of our demographic. They got that thing and enjoyed it. That's good news. All right, y'all. Well, guys, seems like this is the end, my friend. It's James would have us say at the end of the year. Hopefully not. But thank you all very much for joining us tonight on this show. It's our first foray into having it primarily on YouTube. Check out the previous episodes, which are here on YouTube. I get to see the thing. Ooh, like and subscribe because we're on YouTube. Do that thing. And we'll see you all again next week here in the Otherhood. Take care of yourselves. Have a wonderful remainder of your week. And good night.
good
Good night.
night.
Good night.
Don't go, Roxanne.